We are kicking off with Raw as the Wyatt Six finally made their debut in chilling fashion, as after months of speculation, Bo Dallas returned as Uncle Howdy with a menagerie of sinister allies. Eric Rowan is portraying the Ramblin' Rabbit-inspired character, while Nikki Cross is behind the Sister Abigail-like character, and Dexter Lumis is portraying Mercy the Buzzard. NXT's Joe Gacy is the man behind the character inspired by Huskus the Pig Boy, and now more has come to light about the group and what happened at Raw. Fightful reports that Bray came up with most of the creative for Wyatt Six, and reports that WWE wants the spirit of the late wrestling legend as the sixth member of the faction, hence the name Wyatt Six. On Raw, a massacre unfolded with several stars being found laid out backstage, which has caused a great deal of talk regarding what could be next. Chad Gable was the only superstar who could clearly be seen, and while fans believe they spotted Gunther, Braun Strowman, and others, they haven't been confirmed by WWE yet. In fact, WWE hasn't published any update on the condition of those who were attacked backstage, leaving fans to speculate as to what's next. Fightful reports that Wyatt Six will not interact with every program on Raw, and people who were attacked in the closing moments of Raw, along with those who left before the show, were all planned, calculated, and designed for specific reasons. Fightful also reported that WWE Creative clearly stated to them that there will be no supernatural elements in this angle. The same source also jokingly said, "You can't beat ghosts with wrestling moves." On his show, Dave Meltzer assessed the group's debut and acknowledged that the fans are excited, but at the same time, questioned what's to come, stating, "They murdered everybody, but the thing is, what happens when they have to wrestle?" Characters like Bray Wyatt and The Undertaker often have to no-sell moves, which Meltzer believes could complicate the booking of all 5 members. He added, "These guys have to be superhuman, and so many of them, and everything, doing the no-sell thing. I mean, does that mean Nikki Cross is going to turn into... Remember when Alexa Bliss had that superhuman strength for a while?" Bronson Reed has also been confused by what transpired on Raw, and on social media, asked if all of his competition on the Red brand had been murdered by the faction. Ultimately, things are starting strong for the Wyatt Six, but after an impressive debut, the real test will be whether WWE can follow on this momentum in the weeks and months to come. Judging by the reactions online, the WWE Universe loved what they saw on this week's Raw, and that feeling of positivity and optimism has been shared behind the scenes. WWE officials were very pleased with the response the debut got from the Corpus Christi crowd, which has a reputation for being a dead audience in the past. In regards to the production, buzz and feedback from the segment, the higher-ups were reportedly happy with the outcome, and the group received a standing ovation by fans after Raw. This shocking debut has left fans and the WWE Universe eagerly anticipating the repercussions in the coming week's events now that Wyatt Six have emerged to possibly take over. After a strong debut, WWE needs to capitalize with quality booking, and who could be on the hit list for Wyatt Six following their shocking arrival? The most obvious place to start is with the man who most recently adopted the Fireflies synonymous with Bray Wyatt, that being Jey Uso. Jey didn't necessarily take the Fireflies, but they were instead an implementation that came from the raucous French crowd at Backlash, but it may still have put a target on Jey's back. The Wyatt Six didn't physically confront Jey, but they did interrupt his celebration in the main event after he qualified for Money in the Bank. This may be a matter of circumstance rather than a tease, but if it was intentional, then starting with one of WWE's most popular stars would not be a bad place to begin. In fact, Jey has already tried to distance himself from the Fireflies, as he said on Raw Talk, "You saw the ending of Raw too? I don't want no smoke with them. For all I care, they can have the Fireflies back. I want no problem with them. But I'm very happy I did activate Fireflies. Shout out to my boy, still gonna show love to Bray Wyatt. But his family is here now. That means I gotta go. You need to go too, because they're around here somewhere. Did you see the girl? Come on, be careful, Kathy. Yeet." In order to get the group over as a top heel act, they're going to need popular babyfaces to face off with, and right now, there's few hotter than main event Jey Uso. Going after Jey Uso could be an act of revenge for Jey taking the Fireflies, and if that's the plan for the faction, then the Wyatt Six could set their sights on LA Knight. When Bray returned to WWE in late 2022, Knight was a relative newcomer on the main roster, and he would lose to Bray at the Royal Rumble 2023 in what would be Wyatt's last TV match. In fact, Knight was Wyatt's last ever opponent, as the two met at a live event not long after the Rumble, and this connection makes him a natural future target for the group. That may not come right away, as Knight is currently in the midst of a program with US champion Logan Paul, but don't be surprised if he and Uncle Howdy cross paths again. But why should the Wyatt Six relegate themselves to just one SmackDown superstar when there's a whole roster of talent who were absent from this week's Raw? Given the bloody scenes in the closing moments of Raw, it seems only right for a similar angle to play out on SmackDown, though this would likely be a short-term angle. With that said, tying the group solely to Raw or SmackDown seems a waste of their immense popularity, and a role this Friday would show nobody in WWE is safe. If Alexa Bliss were currently active on the WWE roster, one would have imagined that she may have been featured in the Wyatt Six debut lineup given her ties to Bray Wyatt. Perhaps she'll have a role to play in all of this once she eventually makes a return to WWE programming, either as an ally or an adversary of the sinister new group. If the Wyatt Six do remain on Raw, one would imagine that they will eventually have a run-in with the faction that currently claims dominance over the brand, the Judgment Day. The heel versus heel dynamic isn't one that happens too often, however, there are occasions when it can work, and faction warfare is one of them. Finn Balor also has some historical significance to Wyatt's history, being the first ever opponent for The Fiend, as well as a rival years before that in 2017. The Wyatt Six taking down Raw's most powerful group would be a statement in and of itself regardless, and quite simply, Raw probably isn't big enough for the both of them long term. The group's efforts have already begun playing out on social media, as Adam Pearce's Twitter account has seemingly been hacked by the group, and his name now reads Postman. This is a nod to a bizarre Firefly Funhouse episode where Postman Pearce was invited in by Bray Wyatt, and Pearce's bio was changed to Remember. There were also several tweets featuring Adam Pearce staring at one of the Firefly Funhouse's dolls, with the location being the Playhouse, wherever that may be. These tweets have since been deleted and Pearce has regained control of his account, and we'll have to see if Pearce ends up getting affected by the faction on TV as well. Having the Raw GM under their sway could bolster the impact that the Wyatt Six could make before they dispose of Pearce in a manner likely as gruesome as what we saw on TV. WWE has wasted no time in capitalizing on the group's popularity, with Wyatt Six merch being made available, though the name is sometimes stylized as Wyatt 66. With that said, WWE took to Instagram and confirmed the group's name is Wyatt Six, and following their debut, another nod to Bray Wyatt was revealed. On Twitter, Jason Baker was pleased to see the costumes created by him and his crew on display on Raw, and Baker was the man behind the Fiend mask and design for Wyatt. Baker has worked on several masks for WWE, including those used by Asuka, and we'll have to see what's to come from the Wyatt Six after their epic debut this week. Now, Clash at the Castle was a huge show for WWE, but on more than one occasion, issues arose thanks to the ring ropes used at the Glasgow event. From Jade Cargill slipping off the ropes during a dive, to the Damian Priest incident, the ropes caused plenty of issues, and we now know more about what went down. Critics and detractors pointed to these botches as evidence of issues with the ropes themselves, suggesting that the mishaps were directly related to the setup of the ring. When Fightful Select asked sources in WWE about the ropes at Clash at the Castle, these situations were chalked up as bad luck, and WWE is not concerned about repeat incidents. Accidents happen all the time in the world of professional wrestling, and everything that happened at Clash at the Castle will unlikely happen again in the same manner. Thankfully, the ring ropes at the OVO Hydro did not result in anyone getting injured, and this unlucky night was hopefully just a one-off for the superstars of WWE. During this week's Raw, Karrion Kross and Scarlett delivered a promo addressing their recent encounters with Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, and had plenty to say about the New Day. Kross mentioned contemplating something drastic, but Scarlett suggested a less extreme approach that wouldn't land him in jail, and Kross instead offered a match to either men. The proviso is that whoever accepted wouldn't be joined by their ally, and Kross expressed his hope that Kingston would accept and implied Kofi would prefer Woods being out of the way. In response, Kofi and Woods cut a promo with Kingston saying the New Day are the greatest of all time and questioned Kross's authority to give others advice. Woods began to address Kross's challenge, but Kingston interrupted, declaring that since Kross specifically called him out, he would accept the challenge. While speaking on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer talked about the aforementioned segment with the New Day and speculated that WWE was going to break them up. Meltzer expressed his hesitations with the idea, believing that neither man will have much to do after spending so long as a tag team that is also beloved by fans. In the past, the New Day have said they hope to stay a tag team forever, but it seems nothing lasts that long. And do you think splitting the group is the right call? Sound off down below. Over to WWE NXT, as last week Cody Rhodes announced a 25-man over-the-top rope battle royal for the June 18th show, with the winner earning an NXT title match at Heatwave. Rhodes also told NXT champion Trick Williams that the Battle Royal would see participation from multiple rosters, and his words were absolutely true, as 2 stars from TNA were involved. The match began with the grand entry of popular TNA star Joe Hendry, who had been rumored to make his WWE debut for weeks, and he earned a massive ovation from the fans. Joe Hendry's stunning appearance came after being fueled by multiple references on shows like Raw, NXT, and WWE Clash at the Castle in Hendry's native Scotland. However, despite his confidence and boastful claims of supremacy, Hendry was eliminated early in the match in spite of getting the biggest reaction of anyone, and the crowd wasn't happy. In video posted by WWE NXT on Twitter, Hendry was visibly upset with his early elimination and sounded off on NXT head Shawn Michaels for putting him against 24 other wrestlers. Hendry also bragged about his supremacy before leaving the premises, and despite his frustrations, his appearance has left fans excited for more potential crossovers with him. Back to the match, and TNA's Frankie Kazarian would also be involved and competed alongside WWE main roster talent like Dragon Lee, Apollo Crews, Angel, Berto, and Cruz del Toro. Following a huge melee competing inside of the NXT ring, the match came down to the final 2, Javon Evans and Dragon Lee, exchanging blows in the middle of the ring. However, the final moment saw Shawn Spears re-emerge again, not having been officially eliminated early on, and tossed Dragon Lee out instead, but found himself eliminated by Evans. Now the young NXT superstar has earned a golden opportunity against Trick Williams at Heatwave, and we'll have to see how the upstart fares in his biggest match to date. Ethan Page was part of this 25-man battle royal, and the all-ego superstar was frustrated that he had come up short in his pursuit of the NXT championship. Page and Oro Mensah brawled to the back as soon as the match started in a continuation of their angle, as Page had previously attacked Mensah and his Metaphor ally Noam Dar. Following the Battle Royal, Javon Evans was having a celebratory chat with Ava before Page stormed in, saying he was never officially eliminated from the Battle Royal. This led to Evans challenging Page to a match in the main event, which the AEW alum was happy to accept, setting up an exciting climax to the show. Trick congratulated Evans in the trainer's room and questioned if Evans was healthy enough to fight Page, and said he didn't want Page in NXT, calling him an outsider taking shortcuts. Page targeted the bandaged ribs of Evans in their match, with commentary and Trick Williams questioning the young OG's decision to wrestle twice in one night. While Evans got close to overcoming Page, the heel tripped the young OG on the top rope and hit the Ego's Edge for the victory, and that was not the end of the physicality. Post-match, Shawn Spears arrived to beat down Evans, but with the help of Trick, the young OG cleared the ring with a double springboard cutter, and all 4 men were laid out by the end. It was a good match, though both men seemed to be holding back, and the result served as a quick restart for Page, who was right back in the NXT championship scene. Evans was understandably grounded throughout this match with Page, but he showed his ability all the same, selling the onslaught of all ego. The ending suggested that a fatal 4-way match is coming, which seemingly negates the point of the Battle Royal that opened the show. Overall, NXT may have done a bit too much with the world title scene, when a simpler Trick vs. Evans build would have made the most sense. From one title to another now, as NXT Tag Team Champions Nathan Frazier and Axiom could be poised for a breakup based on this week's show. While Frazier had an impressive showing in the Battle Royal, his tag partner seemed unamused later in a backstage segment and questioned why Frazier was even part of the match. Axiom made clear that Frazier hadn't told him about his involvement, and also questioned Frazier's interest in Tony D'Angelo's Heritage Cup, asking if being the tag champions isn't good enough. Frazier was unapologetic, and Luca Crucifino joined the scene, offering Frazier a contract for a Heritage Cup match for next week, which Frazier signed. There's clearly tensions with the tag team champions, as Frazier has his sights set on singles accolades, and that could easily spell the end for the popular duo. Now, Money in the Bank 2024 is just a couple of weeks away, and on this week's Raw, Jey Uso qualified for the men's ladder match with a win in the main event. On Twitter, Triple H shared a poster for this year's PLE, and Jey is featured front and center, holding the coveted briefcase in his hands. This makes it clear that Jay is a huge favorite going into the match, and while there's still plenty of stars yet to qualify, we may already be looking at the next Mr. Money in the Bank. Back to NXT, and Roxanne, Perez, and Lola Vice looked dangerous together in triple threat tag team action, but there was some issues with the two. After Vice hit a spinning back fist on Jakara Jackson, Perez tagged herself in and hit Pop Rocks for the win, and laid out her tag team partner with a back fist of her own after the match. Perez bailed before Vice could do anything about it, and this only reinforced the poor placement of last week's main event by putting this match in the middle of the show. This was a solid match, but clearly favored the champion and her likely #1 contender, and the main memorable action spots unsurprisingly focused on these two women. Perez versus Vice is an interesting pairing due to both standing as heels, and shows the division is heel heavy, though Vice can get the crowd on her side, especially when she leans into their chants. Femi spoke of the familiar feeling he gets with each victory, only to be interrupted by Wes Lee, who demanded another title match, as he wasn't pinned at Battleground. Femi was ready to leave before Lee passionately declared that he is still the best North American champion, and Femi agreed to this one-off singles match for the gold with Wes. Lee has unfinished business with the North American Championship and presents an exciting challenge for Femi as the underdog that will never quit. Femi versus Lee can quickly become the hottest NXT angle if handled properly, and could elevate the title and both men to new heights when the time is right. AEW news now, as during Double or Nothing it was announced that the Owen Hart Cup tournaments are returning, with the winners earning world title matches at All In. Various top stars have declared themselves, such as Bryan Danielson, Pac, Hikaru Shida, Chris Statlander, and Willow Nightingale, and more will come to light on tonight's Dynamite. Tonight's show will see a first-round match between Pac and Claudio Castagnoli, and on Twitter, Tony Khan shared that the brackets for both tournaments will be revealed on the show. With huge stakes on the line, we'll have to see who advances in both tournaments, and who do you want to see earn these world title matches for London? Sound off in the comments. Back to NXT, and for weeks now, Brooks Jensen has been causing a stir with his antics, first on social media and now on TV, as he's not happy with how he's been used on the Gold brand. Given the confrontational way Jensen has voiced his concerns, he's been kicked out of the Performance Center and barred from shows, but that hasn't stopped him trying to get in. He's repeatedly tried to show up to events at venues, often being dragged out by security, but the second-generation wrestler made it inside during this week's NXT. Jensen was shown in the background of an Femi and Wes Lee in-ring promo trying to make his way through the crowd, but being held back by security personnel. Later, in the background of a parking lot interview with Eddie Thorpe, Jensen was being shown being escorted to a police car, seemingly being arrested in another escalation of this angle. Jensen has claimed that his WWE contract expires this Friday and that he'll be leaving the company, but the situation has been reported by Fightful as being a developing storyline. In fact, the angle is part of a plan to seriously elevate Jensen, with the idea being that Grayson Waller's previous issues with NXT management helped elevate the current tag team champion. Jensen recently made an appearance at Bullpen Professional Wrestling, the indie promotion run by his father Bull Buchanan, and who knows what's next for him in this storyline. Fallon Henley defeated Carlee Bright in another impressive showing by Henley, though Bright still looked uncomfortable in the ring, a feeling that will hopefully disappear with experience. Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson watched a competitive battle between Kelani Jordan and Michin from ringside before Bronco Nima and Lucian Price distracted the OC. This allowed for Jada Parker to knock the HBIC off the top rope, and while Jordan missed the interference, she capitalized with a one-of-a-kind moonsault for the win. Michin was the clear ring general here, as she made the Women's North American Champion look like a champion, while also continuing to look like a more serious competitor in NXT. No one other than Fallon Henley is likely to dethrone Lani soon, and these early defenses are all about elevating her standing so that she is permanently made in the women's division. It would have been nice to see Jordan win clean here, but hopefully she will get some definitive victories as champion soon. Gallows and Anderson mocked Chase U backstage for letting Ridge Holland in, which set up a match for later in the show. For the aforementioned tag match, Michin was at ringside as the OC faced Chase U before Duke Hudson got a surprise roll-up on Carl Anderson and with a timely assist by Ridge Holland. Hudson and Holland refused to admit Ridge had cheated, and while it was nice to see Hudson and Andre Chase tagging together, this match felt like it never really got going. These teams did not feel comfortable together, and the flat action led to a flat result, but hopefully it means that Chase U will re-enter the tag team division. So much Chase U drama has distracted from one of NXT's most popular teams, and while the OC could afford the loss, they should be picking up victories sooner rather than later. Ava talked with Kelani Jordan about her next challenger. Jordan wanted to give it to Sol Ruca, but Ariana Grace butted in, setting up a match for next week between Ruca and Grace for a title shot. Backstage, Fallon Henley commiserated with Jacy, Jayne, and Jazmyn Nix about Ruca and Grace jumping the line for a title opportunity. And that was this week's NXT. And what did you make of the show? Let us know in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching.